Hopefully those online are there. Feel free to put your cameras back on. We will go to the procedural item, and then I've got a question from Councillor Burns after that. So we'll just have Sandra explain where we're going from here, and then we'll go to Councillor Burns, because I had missed you, sorry, and I spoke to her in the break.
Thank you, through the chair. So we had a motion that was moved and seconded. The movers and seconders' names changed. Under Standing Order 3.15.15, the meeting owns a motion or amendment once it has been moved, seconded and put to the meeting for discussion. The item cannot be withdrawn unless we have a motion to defer or withdraw the item under that standing order. So on the screen, we now have a motion, agree to withdraw the item for consideration at a future meeting, still moved and seconded by Councillor Henderson and seconded by Councillor Hills.
So before we go to that, I'll just give, and sorry, apologies, Councillor Burns, for missing your question. There was a little, there was a lot going on at that point, but you can give your question now if you still feel you need to.
Yes, no problem. Thank you, Chair Hills. And thanks for calling me in the break. It was just really to clarify, I appreciate that you've spoken about this, and this is really annoying when this happens for the last couple of years. And there's obviously 5 of us that are new. It just worries me with all the language around legal, the cost, the delay. Council's already renowned for, delaying lots of areas. So I guess the question was, or just reiterating, I think you did answer a little bit of it, but really us understanding that the delay will just be potentially 1 month for one, and 2, just if you can be really clear that if we reject it, it will be a very costly exercise for us, but it's probably best to delay by 1 month so we can just get our heads around it and everyone's clear. Is that correct?
Yeah, so unless Megan wants to add to it, but largely, yeah, the advice, we don't have all the legal advice and all the advice on the monies. The planner who actually did this work retired from council, so that's part of the complexity, but we'll be able to go into all that complexity if we just delay, hopefully, or assume till the next meeting. If we'd rejected, which is sort of unheard of at this point of the process, it's likely to be very costly and set us into a legal loop where we would end up back here after a very costly council-funded process, whereas at the moment, the process is funded by the private developer, not us. So I'll just, if there's anything additional.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. No, so look, the opportunity to withdraw, and we said we'd have a workshop or whatever, word you want to use to go through some of the details of this. And a reminder, you're quite right, Councillor, we probably need a reminder at the beginning of this term around these things around plan changes and private plan changes, what council's role is, and all those terms and words that are used. So we'll do that. We'll focus on this one, and then you'll get to consider it again. So this is the best and easiest way to deal with that.
Thank you. I'm happy with that. Just a secondary question to that, something you've just brought up, is that for the new members, are we able to sort of get a debrief on, because something that came up with, which Morris brought up, Member Williamson, is that that most of the people opposed. So it'd be interesting for us to just, cast our eyes over that. They have rejected the submission. Is that correct?
Oh, well, look, we can, Councillor, how about we do this, whether it's together as a whole group, or if some or all of the new ones want a particular briefing, really happy to do that. I think that was the point. I think we just probably just do a wee bit of a 101 again, and more specifics about this one too. So yeah, always happy.
No problem.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Councillor. Right, so back to the item. I'm not sure Councillor Henderson or I want to speak to it. I think it's quite clear. But if anyone would like to speak to the withdraw the item for consideration at a future meeting clause, or we can just vote on it. Councillor Watson.
Yeah, just got a couple of observations that are a little troubling. Member Blair reference the employment related aspect of this proposed development, and of course people may or may not be familiar, but there's a massive amount of housing going in around here, some of the biggest housing development in Auckland, at Milldale, at Millwater, and then eventually at around Dairy Flat itself. So there's going to be an awful lot of people, if not tens of thousands of people, living there. As with the Hibiscus Coast, a lot of this development at the time was predicated on the notion of employment, and we had the knowledge. I can remember Silverdale being the knowledge economy zone, and there was notions of huge amount of work being provided for the good people of the Hibiscus Coast. Now that's been, there is a bit, but it's been a little bit of a letdown, to be honest, and there's certainly not, big streams of traffic heading straight through to Silverdale and the manufacturing centre. So this area down the road, down the motorway, I don't know if it's going to be another version of that, but at least on the face of it, it's offering some sort of industry, some sort of employment. But I guess my main concern with this, and Councillor Sayers did an excellent job of summarising the concerns of the local board in respect of undue pressure on transport and service, increased traffic congestion, safety risks, inadequate public transport and active mode connections, insufficient water, stormwater, etc., etc. So if that's all is indeed the case, well then, yeah, you can't make much of an argument for going ahead with things if that kind of basic infrastructure isn't being provided. But I must admit, when I read point 15, I get quite a different story here, so I was hoping some of the officers might clarify that before any delay, because at point 15 we're told development within the precinct is required to be closely aligned with the delivery of transport, water supply, wastewater, and other infrastructure upgrades needed to support the development of the precinct. A key component of the precinct is the staged delivery of development alongside transport and infrastructure upgrades, with the precinct's provisions specifying when and how these upgrades must be implemented prior to subdivisional development. The precinct provisions also sets out expected landscape, amenities, stormwater management, ecological outcomes, which I did question a bit, and that got reassured with that, and responses to mana whenua. So all that stuff saying, unless I'm reading it wrong, my understanding of the English language is Australian, it could well be, that these things are tied down. That's how I read that it's staged, there's requirements, and that development doesn't proceed unless they're met. So that, I would have thought, was an obvious retort to that could have been made. It wasn't made, so it kind of cast doubt on that pretty assertive paragraph 15. So I guess that's my doubts then, trying to reconcile the concerns of the local board, which are pretty explicit, with what we're told in the paper, which seems to suggest that they are addressed during this precinct process. So for what it's worth, that's my couple of observations.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor. And I think the last person to debate the withdrawal of this item and deferment, Councillor Baker.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, look, I think we've heard lots of stuff about this, and I mean the as John was just saying, I think the clarity for me came from actually reading the decision, which is part of the it's in there and as part of the pack, and you can go to the end of that and you can see what the 16 public submitters, how their submissions were dealt with. And as I say, as John was talking about, there's stuff in there about wastewater and triggers and stuff like that. And so I think, I would have supported it going, accepting this, but I think from let's get all the information, let's get the fact. The fact's always good. And so let's get the facts. If that takes us to have a workshop and get that, then should put us in a better place, because there's significant financial, reputational, and all sorts of risks for council here. And we've got a process that is set up; it's enshrined in legislation, and we need to be mindful of that. And we can't just, because we don't get our way at the end of it, just go, oh, we just won't accept it. Geez, that makes us look like crap, so in my view. So I just think we, if we're not going to pass it today, then the sensible option is to workshop it where we actually get the facts and think about it carefully. So a shame we're not progressing with it, but so be it. And let's get all the information on the table and fact and deal with that.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ferry.
Kia ora, can I just check first? So Resolve actually says that there's a bunch of people waiting to speak on this item. Are they old? No offence.
I was going to clarify that because there are some members who were on the speaking list for the
Before.
original
Okay.
wording.
All right, so maybe, cool. So supporting what Councillor Baker has just said, I'd just also like to point out that the process here that this plan change has been through, those concerns and reasons to oppose were raised during the process in a way that meant they may have been addressed through the process. And that's what we don't have at the moment. We can assume, perhaps, that because none of the groups who opposed the plan change on the basis of some of the reasons that have been outlined appealed it, that they felt that those concerns were sufficiently addressed through the process. So changes were made to the plan change that addressed their concerns. So on that level, I personally would probably be comfortable on signing this off today, making it operative, but understand that there's not that level of comfort in the room. And so I think the decision to defer and to have a further discussion, so everybody's feeling confident to make a good decision, is a good one. So I will support this, but take on board Councillor Baker's points about the process that has already been gone through, and the point that those concerns raised, and which have been reiterated here today, may have been addressed through the process. And it would be good to have confirmation on that, given the lack of appeals. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. And last speaker to this, Councillor Bartley.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate Councillor Sayer's advocacy because it is his area, but also I look at the fact that this is a process, and perhaps when we have this other discussion, we really look at the independent commissioner's process and if we are going to continue or not, because we can't really be seen to be going against a process that we set up just because we don't like the decision. And I think the other thing that we should be considering is our own personal liability should legal action ensue where we've gone against council advice on an issue, and where we stand personally in that law action that could happen. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Right. On this one, all those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. Okay, Councillor Filipaina, Councillor Watson, and Member Blair. Like their votes recorded. Councillor Lee against. Cool, thank you. That's sorted. Okay, on to the next agenda item,